Comme li ngeen doon wax ci yëfi why youths and women are not engaging into politics. Foog naa ne lack of advocacy ak awareness daf ci count.
te loolu sax bokk na ci li tax dewuma school because time bu ma ñëw fii fekk school bi uniform bi seen uniform bi tubéy bu gàtt la te man dama daan rus comme ma dem school son uniform sot tubéy bu gàtt comme suma tànka bi nu mel ma de rus loolu noonu tax na suñ ma waxee mbiri school ma ne leen non man daara lay dem.
dafa dem ba ñu mel ni dañu dugal si néeg tëj ñu amuñ freedom of movement we don't have liberty understand nga dang dee ragal sax nga génna ñu téye la.
ini woke mo be palaso nyini ka sinano e kema yale kanani mbunyala komin ko diamu la musoye ay palaso landi itol ye badi yamute to nyang itol ke wol dama se badi yamuta no to muso kanne ha ngajala ketale ya jale itol ye badi yamute fa ifangol kanne nakala koy waxe sa ñomi neena ñan doñ joy pante ay mboxa te ñu mboxo ñom góor ñi boroma mun na ñew wax ak sa jeker mun waxal ak sa jabar mom mu baye ma place bi te nga gis jigen bobu non mom mu baye lu mu doon uti bopam mu baye ko mu taccul bor bobu nonu ba ko am place bi
ñun ndaw yi ñun politique ñoo ci gëna délu gannaaw man suma gis-gis dang day gis ne nga déka ci community nit joggé falé comme kilifa mu ngenté la koku su taxawé lay councilor o mu taxaw pour mayor mu taxaw pour député doko de mëna challenge because dafa de orné ki sa papa la yow so waré dem sa so waré génna sa saya mo la wone xam nga koy taxawal salila mu dood la isil mboka yow be nga joxé gannaaw do ñem ya dem
ñulu mu molle di menu yalon ko itolu kake molle amanke daade politique be ngo diata dawoda fondinke wolle kankuran dong fondinke wolle wuri wuno ke fondinke muso ninke wolo ko do dabi jel ni nata na jibe ko teke bulu ko silal mo muso lede woto dabi jel anu han men be tira on kan suwo kono kata wheelchair ibe pati men do yewo sotole woto dabi jel ibuke tombon ke nyaton kollete
min mbaɗa ka yimɓe komin gandiranta minen komin ɓiɓɓe leydi hayso min jeyito ɗi lopitanji ko tampere min gontata ɗo min keɓta hay hunde min balletake min keɓa lekki so min gari lopitanji to min keɓta komin ɗomin jooɗi walla wiye ɗo kaari balle ɓeɗo minen komin tampuɓe ndi leydi ɗo minen lañjurtoɓe min mbaɗaka yimɓe abimani
nguur bu fa jóge woon soo waxee waxam bu kaddu bu bon ci moom ñu ñëw rek ankof la ñu yóbbu la buñ la réyul ñu tëj la.
We believe that the provisions on fundamental rights and freedoms are really more progressive and are more substantive in this new draft.
It is a legal process on the one hand, and on the other hand it's a political process. And it involves a number of stakeholders. In our case, we were guided throughout the process by a law that was set down for us by the National Assembly, which was assented to by His Excellency the President of the Republic. Now, we use those guiding principles and to make sure that we sought opinions and made sure that we considered those opinions properly and incorporated those that we felt represented the views and aspirations of the Gambian people.
The government saw a need to revisit the 1997 Constitution, which everyone believes has some draconian laws where executive autonomy was on the high and the powers of the legislature was on the low, and judiciary integrity and independence was also compromised, where we have seen the judiciary being ruled or by, it has been predominantly foreigners, if I can put it that way. It was not Gambian led, and as a result many decisions were made by those that actually were dancing to the tune of the former president. So as a result, all these two arms of government were controlled by the executive.
When this government came to power, one of the things that they wanted to do was to change the current 1997. The fact that it was doctored so many times, people had different versions, and lawyers will laugh and say, but hey, which version do you have? This bit is there, this bit has been removed. But also, I think a lot of things have happened. The Gambia, for example, has ratified many treaties and conventions. And that was why it was clamored that, listen, why don't we have a new start and look at a constitution where it's more reflective to the will of the people. So what I would say is that from a rights perspective, especially, if you look at now chapter 6, that the other one was chapter 4. Chapter 6 has more substantive rights than the old one. And if you look at, for example, there are now other rights which has been expanded. The rights of the disabled, the rights of the elderly, which was never there.
Well, I believe that the people were consulted well enough. It was an extensive consultation, and it was not only limited to the Gambia. They did reach out to the diaspora, and you can even see it in their report that they have been engaging the population to get their views on the new constitution, on the existing one, and on the new constitution. What do they need in terms of a constitution for the country? And the consultations we are done, it is clearly indicated in their report that they did this consultation. In fact, even the National Assembly we are consulted, and that to get our views.
Every region we have meeting, sensitization meeting def nañ ko, consultation meeting def nañ ko, ba ñu pare dem def ñu dagal seen report yóbbu ko président office jóge néegi député. So gisee député yi ñu lifin ko xëy na dafa am takite yu nekk foofu boo mu daan de feewu leen moo ñoom o yeneen population.
It's significant because if you review this constitution, it will be a legacy for my government. You see, this position will finish, but my legacy will never finish. And I wanted to give Gambia a constitution that will last for the next 50 years or 100 years. Everybody will remember President Barrow. That's what we want. That's why we got people who were very, very independent. They consulted everybody and draft a constitution. When draft a constitution, when it came to us, we didn't even attempt to change anything. We passed it as it is. Nothing was touched. But it's a process through the Ministry of Justice. It was gazetted. The gazetting period is 3 months. Then it was matured. It was laid in the National Assembly.
Honorable members, please can we, honorable members, these are the results. Honorable members, please, these are the results. The ayes 31, the noes 23. Now, honorable members, according to section 2262B and 4B of the 1997 Constitution reads, and I quote, subsection 2, subject to section 4, a bill for an act of the National Assembly under this section, that is section 226, shall not be passed by the Assembly or presented to the President for assent unless 2B, the bill is supported on the second and third readings by the votes of not less than 3/4 of all the members of the National Assembly. 226B, a bill for an act of the National Assembly altering any of the provisions referred to in subsection 7 shall not be passed by the National Assembly or presented to the President for assent unless 4B, the bill is supported on the second and third readings by the votes of not less than 3/4 of all the National Assembly members. 3/4 of all National Assembly members, as required by the aforesaid paragraph, equals to 42 nans. The votes of the honorable members supporting the reading of the bill failed short of the threshold of 42 members. Therefore, as presiding officer and in accordance with Section 2262B and 4B of the 1997 Constitution, I hereby announce that the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 2020 Promulgation Bill 2020 fails and would not proceed to the next stage of the process. And I thank you all for your attention.
It was very much disappointing, but we realized also it was more of a political issue, and a civil society organization, we need to maybe sit back and look at what could be done better and where do we need to make much more consultation and at least create more room for people to have a conversation on the draft constitution. But in a general reaction, everybody felt disappointed, and we believe they could have done better. But then, like we said, it's politics, and the National Assembly is a political institution, and sometimes party members toe the line of their parties instead of the interests of the people.
Those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hands, please.
But we don't control National Assembly. That's why you have separation of powers. You have the National Assembly, you have the executive, and you have the judiciary. They are all independent. They have never been independent like this.
Not proceed
Unfortunately,
to the next stage of the process.
They rejected the National Assembly.
When it was submitted at the National Assembly under a bill called the Promulgation Bill to repeal the 1997 Constitution and to debate on the merits and principles of the draft Constitution, it was not meant to be rejected. The National Assembly was supposed to facilitate for it to reach its final destination, which is referendum. The people would then decide whether to accept the Constitution or to reject it. It is their final say.
Why should they put all this money on draft Constitution? Because they put all this money in draft Constitution, they know that they're going to reject it.
The only position we could take is that we discharge the mandate that was reposed in us. And that was to review and write a new constitution and provide a report in relation to that draft constitution. At that point, and I did make this very clear in my statement, at the point at which we delivered the draft constitution and the accompanying report to the president, that was where our mandate ended.
ñu ngi koy naqarlu bu baax parce que li tax jàllut ñun tamit lottu nañ ci xam ko. Parce que député yi waxuñoo ak ñoom it seen xalaati bopp leen jëfee si suñ gis-gis ne seen xalaati bopp leen jëfee pour dàq constitution bi bu fekkoon ne bàyyi woon nañ ko mu jàll xëj na buñ ñu ci gënee ñun wala tamit waroon nañoo mën a ñëw ñu waxtaan ak ñun wax ñu ne ñu lii moo ci bon wala léeg ci bon pour ñu mën a xam lu bari ci constitution bi waaye defe naa ne loolu lu bari amut lu bari tamit eewuñ ci lu tax ñu sànni constitution bi.
All these political leaders, they are there for their pocket. They are not there for an interest of the people. If they are there for that, they will come and consult us before rejecting the new constitution.
Masembo taku ngaje ko luanyelo wol mun to langa nioti itata santo da woda abe kay na complain nyuma ina tinya ban na député dantan men yalon ko be député bun kono wala ya kenna politique ko ti kaje ko constitution nyin kana tamano
yo constitution nyin ngemi jolonte ndefe ntela jerodo a constitution nyin ay musol sembentu yale andung ay kamel for disabled wala mol miliyalon ko murunte wala bu ke fang sambano bu ke fam mako no kula ay wol fanan sembentu yale.
If you don't have people with disability or people vulnerable groups on the table when these things are discussed, you'll be very surprised that it will not be an issue. Because those who sit there talking about these issues, it doesn't just occur to them. And especially if you have been socialized in such a way. And this is why we believe that this was very good. And we actually, I will not say that we're the reason why, but it was one of our recommendations. And we are very happy to see these things in this new draft.
In the draft constitution, that is ideal. I mean, I personally will have rejected the draft constitution if the issue of people that are differently able was not vehemently captured, and I think it should be captured. Every Gambian, irrespective of who you are, you should be able to realize your talent, your potential, and you should be given the chance to contribute to national development.
No, really, in the Gambia here, they don't respect disabled.
fu ñu dem rek dañu dee bañ a accept mbaa suñu yéena tax yi suñu yéena indi ka liggéeykaay yi yëpp duñ dee am access pour dugga fa soo duggee ñu fo ne yow da nga ñëw pour yalwaan mbaa da nga ñëw pour da nga war a am access pour dugga foofu.
comme like wàllum ñi nga xam ne ñooy physically challenge laago yi tamit dafa am solo comme loolu si kaw la war a doore si suñ government bi because léegi-léegi da ngaa dem yeena liggéeykaay nga xam ne laago yi fu ñoo amee access pour éeg si kaw stairs bi amu fa léegi-léegi nga dem yeena lopitaan wala léegi-léegi nga dem yeena government institutions laago yi su ñëwee si suuf like si suuf rek la ñoo mën a station seen boppa because amuñ any entrance boo xam ne moo leen a dimbale pour ñu éeg si kaw so loolu noonu yëpp suñ ko adressé comme ñu woon laago yi ne yéen si ñun ngeen bokka ñoom tamit dinañ am fit like pour such election su taxawee ñoom it ñu mun a contest.
You need policies, you need laws, you need awareness raising, and you need women in these positions where decisions are made.
bu ñu amee fi ñun tam bu ñu fa amee jigéen député baax na parce que jigéen moo mën a faj morom yi jigéenam soxlam góor mënut a faj soxla jigéen jigéen moom yaa mën a faj sa soxla bu ñu amee ay jigéen nekk ci nguur gi ñun tam loolu bëgg nañ ko waaye ñun fii jigéen yi nekkuñu ci nguur bi góor yi rek a fa nekk.
musol se kuwo min keno wala en kakkafu ñoma ko ñi yafo ñame ya député ol min sindiji mol bele député ol sindiji wa député ol fana musol ñanta futala wala makay la bata dal yitandila ka yitandila ko min tolle ngal sindi ñindulado amanke mo kiline yal sindiji nim musol yela bata dal yitandila ka fo en tolle ngal sindi ñindulado andu ñinni ñing tol fana lafta wol laftan kangom wol ya moy andu muso ni tata suwo kono sainsa ni ya taraje yek ñinin ka jumalen suutiyo di ba fo le kewolen suutiyo ni muso ka be wurla baake ba fala hey ide mu nekk da man kan soto suwo kono pour ka wuri sam
jigéen tam the same thing anything li bëgg taxal fi jigéen wala jiitu leen di wax ne jigéen xelam motut so na toba ci ginnaaw góor yi na góor yi jiitu jigéen nekk seen ginnaaw so loolu la fi yaaga waaye comme yàlla dimbale nañu comme am na benn candidat boo xam ne taxaw na ba ñëpp gis nañ ne nu mu fa demee ni wiin na so daal dafa tax lii ñu bari ñoo xam ne wax ne na ma gi jiitu ne ginnaaw fàtte loolu noonu léegi gis ne xale yi ak jigéen yi ne war a jiital léegi bàyyi magi si gannaaw
parce que soo nekkee ñun ci suñ sotaay li ñu gis mooy ñun jigéen ñi amuñ kàddu fen dañ dee ñëw wax ak góor yi waaye duñu dee doglu duñu dee faale ñoom ñu ngi toppa seen intérêt lu gën a bari ba tax ne jigéen yi ñoom dañ dee dellu gannaaw pour ut affaire yi politique ndax dañoo wax ne politique góor a ko moomee nekkul ñoom waaye man nag dama ñëw ma ne xaaral ma dugal si biir
bari sa ndef fana lafta mbem fatal be daniro ke kam mena ko mentel ñom musol mfana nga denkana ba nga ke kankilinti ba nga bulo ko si cioli ka gagné nga bulo ko si mfangale nga gagné sa mfana nga momuta ngana to kewol bunde nga ko sino ma nyame ke winin ci odam mandam man na nyon ke ate winat musolin dindingul wolle ka winin yo sa musolin dindingul mfana ba katala sante tulam kewol noma ka bulo ko si mfana laftale bulo ko si mfana liye mbe nga kanya
ñun ndaw ñi ñoo gën a dellu ginnaaw te lu bari wala lu ko gën a waral mooy gars yi ñoo ñu delloo ginnaaw mooy ñu yore réew mi ñuy doxal réew mi ñoo ñu delloo ginnaaw parce que soo xoolee suñu réew buntu yu néew leen ñu jox pour buntu yoo xamante ni ndaw yi mën nañ ci yëngu.
Youths are the future leaders of tomorrow. Without showing any action, how can youths believe that they are the future leaders of tomorrow?
Empower the young people so that they will be represented at all levels, from village level to national level, because that's where it starts. They need to be molded. If you don't mold them, they won't be able to do that. If you want me to have the experience of being an MP, you start with the alcalo. At the grassroots level, where I will become a youth leader, you join me at the VDC, I'm having experience interacting with people. From there, I will know. I will not just get up one day and have the experience when you don't give me the opportunity.
Ko ɗum waɗi joni miɗen faala yiide kala gollirdu laamuɗo woni mi yo taw neɗɗo amen e jooɗi ɗon tawa min keɓat ɗon neɗɗo jooɗiɗo sabu han ɗo woni ɗo ko Basetan area council woni ala represent disabled woɓe joɗɗinani suudu député ɓe to miɗen toon jogui neɗɗo goto si Allah jaɓi ole élection garowo ɗo kadi min keɓa toon neɗɗo goto goɗɗo eyyi dulaji ɗi fof council ji ɗi fof hande ko base rek
nga men taranna mool alifa Allah wala e musol tundi koma nunto nga wala taranna alifa Allah wala tundi koma barbi anim fahamru baliya barbi fahamroɓe ke kanne musol te koma andunte tula koma fana nunto ma faham wala e musol tundi koma barbi mbe tilo men te musol e fahamro kele fa tambita kewolla yalo dame mbalo la jini mbe luwano malale mbe banko luwano malale mbe kango luwano malale fa musoli la kango soto musutanni nano be ya fa nyanta tara parliament abe soto la ni ala sonde.
The unfortunate thing you mentioned about women's rights, but we have in the National Assembly women who rejected this constitution. That is the unfortunate thing. When you have in the draft constitution there is a clause or a provision that says now 14 women are allocated seats in the National Assembly, exclusive. They have to contest those seats among themselves within the 7 regions. Every region is allocated 2 women.
The position of the members, both those who are in support of it and those who opposed it, basically all of them said they are in support of a new constitution. But those that oppose it said unless their concerns are addressed, they would not support it. And the stage where the concerns should have been addressed, they not even allow it to reach that stage. So that's the unfortunate part of it. So at least they could have, one can reject it, they have the right. Because the National Assembly gave the CRC the task, so it was up to the National Assembly to approve or not to approve. But we expected that everybody was going to approve this because we were all, of course, there is no other National Assembly member who said they do not need a new Gambia. So, but the new Gambia cannot come into being without a new constitution.
Constitution making, as I said, is a challenging process. It requires patience, it requires compromises, and it requires accommodation. We must not relent in our efforts to ensure that we come up with a new constitutional framework. We must pick up again from where we are and try and move forward in order to achieve the goal we agreed upon. We all agreed that we do need such a new constitutional framework. What is required now is for all engaged in the process to be ready to make compromises, to accommodate views and concerns of others, and to exercise due patience in the process.
The way forward is to get the CRC bill again to the National Assembly. Remember, this law is made by the people. It was the people that make in their inputs. Religious groups make in their inputs, right? Everyone make in their inputs. So it is the people. It is the people's constitution, not the government's. Not the executive's constitution. You understand? The 1997 constitution, the current government see it as a bad constitution. You understand? So the way forward is for the executive to find a way to get the constitution to go back to the parliament, and some of the provisions that are being contentious, we look into it. You understand? Strike a compromise if possible, and then amend those provisions for the CRC bill to be perfect and more representative.
Député le borat blalent. Ngana député le kumandi. Tolmen mu carte faylato yi tolier pour yesin kawnaji. Nge kumandi niesi. Nge haklimandi tol lafta menna. Même mun tol nyanto to ngo double ni tata député mo to yobbo nyin tamande ji. Ba nim mo ke kumandi pour ka je ko niesi han sa han ya murne nan ni ya sama député mo dal jikita kam tinyar. Ban tol men carte fay ni nge murne kan lafina ko yo sama nya député.
Salari Gambia ko enen fongo di Gambia. Jiti leydi men ndi wawta yarude yeso sina enen fof en tawe e wakkol participate pour leydi ndi yara yeso. Si leydi ndi si yimɓe dantam waɗi participate hewɓe ɓe tawaga hen yet hewɓe boppete ɓe gañi ɓe jejjite. Se ko noon si enen fof en tawama e nabbo leydi ndi yeso, goto fof okkirat gantu makko, goto fof okkirat problème makko. Hayat ɗum fof watte e loi beaucoup e faade constitution he min dal député ji ɗi ko addi haɓe cali constitution o ko ɗum na jakilin kam ha yawtiti, because mi yiyani dalil mboɓe addi haɓe carori constitution o, because constitution o ko woodi ko waɗano toon ɗum woni sababu joni ɗum wawata yaade. because na fewi wodi ko fewjana e constitution e ɗen pewje fof joni ɓayde constitution o yawtani ɗum fof wawta yaade haysi wonno na waɗanno plan yimɓe ɓe gandata ɓe mbawanani koye mumen rewɓe ɓe gandata ɓe poti bokkude politique sukaɓe ɓe gandata ɓe poti wallede the youths. All those things now wawta yaade. So it's a big problem to me, and na fota lartindede pour constitution o people reflect.
We are all Gambians, you know, just that these are natural events that can happen to anybody. So I think we should be futuristic in terms of how we view these issues and understand that as a country we have to be super inclusive.
It is useful to remind ourselves that the 1970 Constitution was rejected at the first referendum at which it was presented to the nation. It was patience, perseverance, and dialogue which led to its adoption at a second referendum some years later, and to its survival for almost a quarter century. Those qualities are very much in demand today to help us unlock the impasse that we now face.
The advantages are more than the disadvantages. And like I said, it's not a perfect document. There are so many issues there that I challenge, I would want to see out, removed from the book. But we can forge ahead with it. And then if we had allowed it to go to that phase, as I told you, consideration stage, the whole House would have been considering it. And members would have been, coming up with their positions. And we could have been doing back and forth, compromising here and there. You may not got all, but at least something satisfactory. We would have been able to reach at a conclusion that would be a win-win for all, because you will not have everything that you wanted, but at least you will have something that is good for the country. So these are the progressive elements that are in the Constitution, like you're talking about women, giving a fair share of representation, youth, giving a fair share of representation, the disabled, giving fair share of representation, being covered. These are the good things. These are some of the positive things that are in the Constitution that is motivated me to vote for it.
This should be part of my legacy. So obviously, for the Constitution to be endorsed, if I was in the National Assembly, I would have voted yes.
For the Constitution is not only the source of the establishment and mandates and powers of the jurisdictions of the judicature, it is also the source of authority of all other laws which are applied by the court. We are also aware of where these efforts stand at the moment, but we must not give up.
As we said, civil society organizations should be continuing the debate and advocating for it to be implemented and then taken to a referendum. They have to put pressure on their National Assembly members. They have to put pressure on the executive so that it could be brought back in another form, whereby it could reach the population through a referendum.
Well, the so-called, the approach I believe is to have a new constitution. We cannot definitely proceed without a new constitution. Either coming back with the whole thing, or at least coming back with the progressive things to inject in the existing one, as we suggested initially. And this can be done, the term limit, women representation, youth representation, disability. These are things that we can bring. And then anything that is there that needs to be taken to the people in a referendum, we can also do that. But we really need, the way forward is that we need a constitution other than this existing one. It can be an improved version of the existing one, but nothing other than that. Nothing less than, anything other than less than that is not something good for the Gambia. That cannot usher in the third republic that we are all yearning for. We need a new Gambia, and that is the third republic that we all want to realize, and we cannot realize it in the absence of a constitution.
What we should not do, even if we have a new constitution, we should not go back to where we were. We should make sure that these rights are protected, respected, and fulfilled by the government.